But if we're aware of how we work, it's the first step towards, okay, I can kind of optimize this and stop beating myself up around, why don't I write great dialogue at 10 p.m.? Ron Bass knew, and he fixed it for himself. He figured it out and he fixed it.
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Welcome to the show, friend. You are going to be stoked. We are going to have so much fun today. I've been chatting with Steven in the back room, and now we're ready to talk to you. And we're going to talk about finding you, finding that time, making the best of what you've got right now. We are busy. We are pulled in so many directions, family, friends, work. Take a breath. How do I get me back? How do I find the value in what I'm doing? And Steven's going to tell us about his life and when he got that wake-up call and started paying attention to making time for him. I'm thrilled to have you here, Steven. We're going to take a quick break, get a word from our sponsor. When we come back, help me find time for me and to live my best life. We'll be right back. Hey, since I rarely have openings in my coaching schedule, I have a new resource out there on my website. It is called the BFF Coaching Network. And I have offered a spot there for any coach that has been on the show to list the coaching. You can go out there, you can listen to their episodes, you can feel a little bit about them, and then choose a coach that will work for you. So LaraJaneLayton.com, the BFF Coaching Network. Okay, Steven, the information about you is in the show notes. So let's jump right in. I know you're going to be able to help a million people, but I still get lost in time and don't use it for the best. How do I make my time the best time I can do for me?
Well, let's, number one, thank you for having me here. It is lovely to be here. I hope the things we share are very helpful, actionable, and maybe entertaining if we're lucky. So
that's a given with you.
So let me begin by saying this is when we think about time management, and there are 17 billion books on this and YouTube videos and Instagram accounts and all of it, implicit in why you would access any information on it, why you try to answer that question. Why is time important, right? If you're trying to manage your time well, if you're trying to do something, why is time important? And I'll tell you, I have a very strong thesis that we all have something great inside us. And the question of this lifetime is, are you going to get it out or not? And there are a lot of forces that pull you away from getting that out. Whether it is you have to manage a family, you have, daily considerations, as well as, let's be very blunt. The $1 trillion companies on the stock market, their business model is called steal your life. That is what they do, full stop, period, right? And they have the most money to pay the best designers, the best engineers to make these products that are just so great because they'd be very happy if you ended up giving your day over to them and not doing the thing that actually makes you feel whole, makes you feel like I'm doing what I'm meant to do here, right? And doing it in a way that's healthy. So I think that's an important thing to acknowledge. You were about to say something. What are you going to say?
I was. It's like you're talking and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is so cool because they do steal our time and they do give us this false sense of you're not whole unless you look like this. You're not whole unless you have this. And they make us feel so much pressure that I got to buy a sports coat. I can look successful, but I don't want one. But I got to look the part. And how do we separate and be more authentic? I love the people. I had a CEO that drove a beater car to work because he could care less. I'm going to spend my money on something more important. This is my beater car. It's my commuter. I got the cool one at home.
But I paid for my kids' college. That was important. The car, not so important. It's funny what you talk about, and we'll come back on our main topic. What you talk about is memetics, which is the idea that we learn what we should want by seeing other people want something. And social media is famous for this, whether it is Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is like this continual fire hose of you should want this and you should buy this and you should dress this way and you should look like that, right? And it's amazing the way this idea of memetics is really popular in the Valley. And it's discussed. It's not like a hidden thing, is these platforms are designed to do exactly that. Because then when you are buying the thing, they want to stick themselves in the middle and say, oh, let us help you buy that. And we're going to take a cut from the person selling it, right? So it's an interesting thing. But let's come back to what you said about how slippery the slope is to say, I have my life, I want to manage this, and you slide into this, and suddenly your life is out of control, and you spend 2 hours not in a way that advances your life at all, right? It's funny because a couple of years ago, probably 8-10 years ago, if you remember, like Mark Zuckerberg had to go to Congress and be testifying and all the thing, right? And he, in his smug way, was like, oh, Facebook's just about grandmothers seeing their grandkids' videos. That's all we do here. Just really cute, And now the social media companies are not embarrassed at all. Like straight up, you listen on their quarterly earnings reports, and they're like, these are the techniques we employed to steal everyone's life. By the way, next quarter, we had these new techniques we're going to deploy to steal everyone's life, more of it to create shareholder value, right? Shareholder value is code for we're taking your life and selling it to advertisers and keeping the money, right?
Yes.
And then in return, you get dancing cat videos. Hey, Laura Jane, can I have your life? I'll give you some dancing cat videos for it. And they do it in such a beautiful way. Like, with gambling mechanics, one of the things that's really interesting is you have a feed in whatever your preferred platform is. Like, in social media, what's your number one platform?
I loved Facebook till they kicked me off.
There you go. Okay.
So it was my time suck. Now I have time to do other things.
Which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
They took from casino psychology, from gambling, the concept of variable rewards, which is they have a very accurate profile of what videos you watch, what you tap, what you click, what you want to see. And they could feed you a continuous stream of stuff that you loved, but they don't. They actually put into your feed stuff that you don't like because it leads to addiction. The dopamine high is greater if they show you one or two things. They're like, I don't care, because when you hit the thing that they know you like, the dopamine rush is addictive. It's why slot machines pay out the way they pay out. It's why all these gambling addictions have to do with variable rewards. So anyway, to bring us back on topic, yes, if you are looking at how do I do the thing that makes me me, like while I'm here on this earth, how do I get out of me the great thing I need to do at the same time that I am handling a family, handling a job, maybe I have a side business I'm building, something meaningful. It does come down to limited amount of time. No matter how wealthy you are, you cannot buy time. Elon Musk cannot buy more time, right? You can buy many things, but not time. So then it does bring us now around to your question of, okay, so how do I use the time that I have well? And one of the things I'm very passionate about, and you know this, is I spend a lot of time in film, a lot of time in tech around some very high performers that could do this sustainably. Like they could keep writing scripts, keep directing movies, keep creating apps, and not I am burned out, I'm 28 years old, I have to go, to the mountains and live in a cabin, but like high performers, A friend of mine created Siri and has had 2 big exits after that, has created 3 companies that have all been acquired, right? And, he's 60 now and he's still doing it. He's happy, right? Because he does know it's sustainable. So this is what I'm really passionate about. And I'd like to introduce this concept of flow states. Is that fair to go there?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So, and I know for some people, they're like, totally get flow states, use it all the time. It's the only way I get through the day, right? I think for most people, they've heard it because it's in the zeitgeist now and they have a passing understanding of it. I think it's worth 30 seconds just to make sure we're all on equal footing, which is there was a Hungarian American psychologist. This guy, Mihai, she sent me hi. And he had a thesis, right? And his thesis was, if you talk to high performers in different disciplines, artists and athletes and scientists and inventors, they go into these concentrated states where they do the thing that makes them famous, the thing that changes their world. And they all talk about that state in very similar ways. And he's like, what's up with that? What is this? So he did his research. At the end of his research, he wrote a book called Flow, from whence we get the term flow state. And I love this. He said, I chose this word because it was the most beautiful metaphor I could find for the fact that we are all on the river, paddling to move ourselves forward. But if you align your boat with the current, it magnifies your efforts, carries you. And that's what these high performers have figured out how to do consistently. And it is a fascinating book.
And I used to call it, I'm in the zone, like, go away, I'm in the zone.
You. and Mihai acknowledged that. He said, a lot of them call it different things. Like flow is a word I chose for this, but Michael Jordan has that famous quote, when I'm in the zone, it is me and the ball. And he's implying, implicit in that is he's saying, when I'm doing those things that 30 years later, guys are still showing each other on highlight reels, right?
Yes.
I'm doing that magical stuff. There are no defenders. There are no stands. There's no scoreboard. There's no clock. Like I can block out the whole world and do that magical stuff in a contained way. And Picasso also had a great quote. He called it something else. I don't know in Spanish how you translate it, but he essentially said, oh, you know what? I was up all night. I don't think I ate. I don't think I went to the bathroom. But hey, I finished Guernica. Like, what do you think? Do you like it? It's a massive undertaking. And Mihai acknowledged this and he said, you know what? There are conditions precedent that you can use to get into this state. If you need to do your best work in a way that is contained in time and at the end leaves you uplifted with a feeling of joy, of in control of your day, as opposed to depleted, like, oh my God, I have to go to bed, right? He's like, this seems to be like the way to do it. And that is something I'm glad we're going to talk about today. I've been talking a bunch. I'm going to be quiet for a moment. You should talk.
Oh no, I love this. I'm like, feed me.
Okay,
it's like, this is so cool.
Let's talk about some actionable stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because it's fun to think about like, oh, there's this great state where people do all this concentrated work. How does this become accessible to me? Okay, so here are some things that Mihai wrote. There are subsequent researchers that have done that, standing on the shoulders of giants sort of research, where it's like, some people research what music gets you to flow. Some people research like what sort of breathing practices. And there's a lot of great research out there. So I'd like to share as much of it as we can reasonably, here in 30 minutes. So Mihai said, there are a couple things I noticed about flow states and these high performers. He said, they only get into a flow state when they are doing something they think is meaningful. He said, it's not about stapling papers or shuffling, doing dishes or whatever, right? It's doing something you go, this actually moves my life forward or my team's life forward or my family's life forward, right? Meaningful. He said, you have to have skills that apply and it has to be somewhat challenging. It's not, use that Michael Jordan, example. It's like not Michael Jordan painting. It's not Picasso trying to play basketball. It's Michael Jordan playing basketball and playing it like in the NBA where it's like, I am in my zone, right? And he said, you have to have some feedback. You have to have some way of knowing how you're doing. If you feel like you're just pouring energy into a black box, it's hard to stay in flow because you lose track of where you are in it. So subsequent researchers, and I want to acknowledge like anything I say that's smart is because really smart people have spent their lives researching this. And I'm just here to like give you a contained bit of it, right? So let us respect those who came before us. So music is one example. Bunch of research says that for most of us, the sweet spot of music that helps us drop in and stay in is about 60 to 90 beats per minute. Not too slow, not too fast. It's ambient, non-vocal, so you're not singing along with it, right? Melodic music. Certain key signatures seem to work more than others. And it was something like when I was, the site that I created, the Flow State site, I have a bunch of friends who are film composers. it was great to be able to turn to them because they have a lot of time on their hands right now and say, hey, could you write like 1,000 hours of music that's in this zone? And as we launched our site, one of the things I noticed was as much as we said, oh my God, there's all these playlists you can listen to that are all scientifically designed, there are some outliers. And if you are an outlier and you're like, actually, 60 to 90 beats per minute does not work for me, I must listen to show tunes or I must listen to 90s gangster rap or whatever it is. I've probably spoken to you at some point in developing our website where someone's like, could you put up a playlist that's sort of this kind of music? So don't feel constrained. If typical flow music is not what works for you, find the thing that helps you drop in because it does take 15 to 23 minutes to drop in. You don't just snap your fingers and say, I'm in flow now. It's magical. Like your brain needs time to get in there. And if you get interrupted, whatever it is, I'm having a son in 3 weeks. I know there are going to be a lot of interruptions of my son coming in, of my daughter eventually coming in. It takes you another 15 to 23 minutes to get back in. So you have to really guard that time well, which leads to the idea of time boxing. At times, time blocking, which is if suppose, you have the day job and this is, you're taking care of your family, whatever, and you need to compartmentalize and say, to do the deep work, as Cal Newport would say, I need to have this hour every day, no interruptions. I put it in my calendar, like a meeting with myself, my flow time. And in that time, you do the deep work it's meaningful. Not returning emails or Teams messages or something, but doing the thing and moves things forward. You need to block time because it does take 15 to 23 minutes to get in, right? Music helps you drop in faster. Another thing, and I'm going to give you a funny Hollywood story about this one, okay?
Okay.
Are you still with me? Is this too much?
I am with you. No, this is great.
Okay.
Keep on.
So another thing that I witnessed firsthand in film was the relationship between space, physical spaces, and mental space. And I'll tell you, when I was working, I met Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, who had, written and directed and produced Stargate, Independence Day, Godzilla, and stuff, right? When they would go to write their scripts, there was a villa down in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Apparently I've never been there. It's this beautiful white marble villa in the hills of Puerto Vallarta. They would go there to write. They'd rent this vacation house, month to months. When they had to write this next one, Roland told his assistant, Joey, hey, rent the villa. We got to go down and write this, right? Joey came back. She said, it's rented. It was like an Airbnb before Airbnb, like someone else had it, And it was around the office. It was like, oh. And I asked Dean, I was like, why is this so important? He said, you know what? There's a room there where in the morning, the light comes in over the pool. And in that room, we never think about budgets and studio notes or, what cast is available, what schedule. We just write the movie that we would want to go see. It was so important. Roland called his entertainment attorney, this guy, John Deemer, is amazing. John, buy the villa. By Monday, Roland owned a $5 million villa in Mexico.
That's awesome.
Where those renters that were there went, I'm sure they were paid nicely to find another vacation rental somewhere, right? But they went down there. 6 weeks later, they came back with the script that became the third highest grossing movie in film history at the time. It worked for them. Okay. Does it have to be a $5 million villa to do this sort of thing? No, because I'll tell you this. When I was at DreamWorks, I was working with Alex Kurtzman and Bob Orsi. You probably don't know who they are, but you've seen Mission Impossible 3 or The Island or Transformers 1 and 2 or Star Trek 11 or, a lot of Eagle Eye, right? Mm-hmm. When they got in crunch time, when it's like, we have to turn in Transformers 2 in 3 weeks, they would have their assistant call the Universal Hilton across Lancashire in Hollywood. We were on the DreamWorks little Amblin compound, which is on Universal Studios lot. Mm-hmm. Across the street, there is a hotel. And I'm just going to be very polite, which is, it's the kind of hotel you go with your kids the night before you go on the rides. It's not a hotel you seek out. This is not a glamorous resort property, right? They're making $1 or $2 million a script. They could go to Bali to write it. And it hit me. They met back in school. That hotel room with Kurtzman on the edge of the bed on his little laptop and Bob at the little desk on his laptop, probably triggered for them dorm room. Oh, we're these scrappy young writers. We have to prove that we can do this, you know? And that's where they would go to knock out these huge $2 million scripts. So I say this with hopefully memorable examples of if you are working at home or even working in an office, how can you make an association for your brain that it knows when you enter this space, this is what you do there? Because it's often tempting if you work at home. Oh, in the morning, the light's so nice in the kitchen. I have my laptop there. And then I go up to my office for a while. Oh, at the end of the day, I'm on the sofa, and the kids are going to come in later and watch movies or whatever. It really screws with your brain because your brain's like, where are we? What are you doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Yeah. If you try for a week or two, oh, you know what? I need to write my blog. I need to, write my code, whatever that is that you do. And you sit in the exact same spot. It's weird how you'll find yourself when you sit there, suddenly your brain drops in and goes, right, okay, we're going to be writing now. And it's free. You don't need my website. You don't need books. You don't need lights. You don't need anything. You just say, oh, you know what? I'm going to have a practice where it's like, if you do yoga, you go into the studio to do yoga. You don't do yoga on the stairs. It's chaotic. And I'm going to do yoga with Laura after this. So it's probably I have yoga on my mind. Anyway, I've been talking way too much. Guide me. Where should we go from here, Laura Jane?
Yeah, I'm just going to kind of comment on what I've heard so far.
Ooh, let's hear.
And kind of like my personal analogies, but I have my office here. And when I'm in this office, it has a certain feel. And it's a productive feel. It's energizing because I get to talk to all my cool guests in here, but it's my productive zone. AI's my friend. I'll say, hey, I'm transferring to the laptop now. That's my creative. When I'm outside of here is when I get to think outside of the get stuff done. And so I have these two different places. But while you're talking, my husband always says, I got to get downstairs to stretch. I go, you can stretch anywhere. You just triggered out the why. You won't have to go downstairs to stretch. You could right here on the living room floor. But it's when he's in the zone, that's when he's in the mood, that's when he's focused on that's what he's doing. And it's like, aha, Jane just had an aha moment. So it's like, that was cool to kind of like connect that because now that makes sense. And I think about, at the office, I have always had a playlist. And when I was not being focused and not going forward, on goes the playlist. Now, I know for a fact the songs in that playlist are between 80 and 90 beats per minute.
You know that. That's
only
cool.
because what is this song? I've asked when I started creating a midday rev, and it's not published yet, but this midday rev takes you when you're at that burnout moment of here, I'm at 60 beats per minute. I ramp up to 90 with some guided meditation on wringing out your muscles to let the fresh in, and just some guided stuff in there. And so my grandson is writing the music to it because he composes. And so I've told him there's got to start here, it's got to ramp up. And then I have my playlist that I've always used that will tagline it on there. And mine happen to have vocals, but I have put together a playlist that's all like confident building, successful woman kind of feel. Megan Trainor kind of stuff,
Right.
Good beat,
That's
positive
you know
words.
Your jam. You know how to use music to get where you need to go. It's really important.
Right. You turn that on and you're getting good words. Where so many songs are laced with negativity and
True.
stuff I don't want to listen to. So I'll turn it on, tune out the words and work, and it keeps me going. And so I'm like, aha, now I know why it works so well. But for me, words are okay because I can tune them out knowing that I'm getting the subliminal positivity. And of course, the show notes now has a link to that playlist if you choose to go out there.
That is super cool. I have another question for you. Do you ever use scent, like smells, to trigger you?
Essential oils are on my desk, on my headboard, in my vanity where I get work, and in my purse. I have one called inspiration, and I use that when I'm going to yoga and stuff, just that Zen
I
moment.
love that.
I have this one called Smile for a Mile, and it just has that happy feel. Of course, Wild Orange, always a happy feel. And this one's Mindful Spirit. So, yes,
Do you
I
know?
absolutely combine the two because that just magnifies it.
I love that. Do you know scent is actually the sense most closely linked to memory? People think
Mhm.
it's visual or oral, like oral. It's actually our sense of scent conjures up memories better than any other sense.
Right. When I was a kid, my mom would have me put peppermint on my hands when I was studying for a test,
Oh,
and then
good. Yeah.
she'd send it with me to school so that I could put it on and remember.
Your mom's smart.
I had an amazing mom. We were into woo woo stuff long before woo woo was popular.
That's that is super cool. Wow.
So, yes, you can use
So you've
scent.
used a lot of these tricks. You're like, Steven, I know all that. You can talk, Steven. It's so cute, but you
No,
know all this
you
stuff.
know what? You remind me that there's purpose in the things I already do, and you help intrigue other people to give it a try. So, absolutely, I want to repeat everything. Dig it out of me. Let's do
I
this.
so appreciate you saying that. And here's the thing is we started talking, and I know that a bunch of the framing of this is okay, you have a busy life, you have responsibilities, time is limited. How do you do the things you need to do and do them well, right? And so often people group that kind of thinking under productivity, right? But what I think is interesting is I don't think of this so much as a search for productivity as it is a search to be in control of your life. Because it feels really good when you're like, oh, these are the things I need to do. I'm doing them well. I can do them with ease. Um, you don't know that. Do you mind if I share why I named my company this weird name? Because it's a yoga story.
Absolutely. Yes, let's
Okay.
do a yoga story.
So, Laura, I married the girl on the yoga mat to my left. We did yoga together. We started chatting. Months later, we went on a date. That was it, right? Okay. So, we have a daily yoga practice. You know, we're going there later. When we got married, where do you go for your honeymoon when you're super into yoga and you're in love?
A
We went to
yoga
Bali.
retreat? Yes.
Yeah, exactly. We went to Bali. Yeah, you get it. Okay. So I'm very grateful that my life has worked out where I can do things like going to Bali and spending 10 days all right. So on the way there, I was talking to Laura and I said, I have been struggling. We created this website to help people get into flow. And I can't come up with a good name. All the names I'm coming up with are so obvious and blech. You know what I mean? Like Amazon's not called like store. Like Nike's not called like shoe place, right? And I was like, is it a flow state site or distraction blocker? What is it? So I said, maybe in these 10 days that we're gone, no one's going to bug me because they know I'm on my honeymoon, right? Maybe the universe will just speak to me and I'll come up with a name. She's like, I wish that for you. Good luck, right? So we got to Bali. We're going to the hotel. And I said to her, I think something might inspire me is, do you mind, because I know it's the first day of our honeymoon, if I do like 3 quick Zooms, like 5-10 minutes with some of these early members that are using this and just ask them, what do you love about this? Maybe you have a perspective that I miss, right? So she said, go for it. I'm going to the pool. I'll see you at dinner, right? So I did. I dropped in the group chat. I was like, hey, who has 5 to 10 minutes? Talk to people, ask that question. What's your favorite feature? Do you love the music or the smart assistant, the phone block or whatever? The third guy, I was going into that wrap up where you're like, oh, Laura Jane, thank you so much for your time. I know we said 10 minutes, so I'll be respectful, so I'm going to let you go, right? And he stops me. He says, Steven, you asked the wrong questions. And I was like, okay, guy that I do not know that well. Tell me, like, what's the right question? He said, you should have asked me why I pay you. I was like, we charge very little, like $10 a month. Like, okay, why do you pay me? He said, so the past year or so, I have 2 kinds of days. At 3:00, I can be playing with my kids. They're currently 2 and 4. Or at 6:00, I can be down on myself and like, where did the day go? And I was busy, but I didn't do the things that you get done. He said, I realized the difference is, did I hit play on your website in the morning? So I pay you because my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever. And I was like, you won that round. I did not see the answer coming. Okay. And so I went to dinner with Laura. I was like, I spoke to this guy who's more articulate about what I'm doing than I am. And I told her this, and she's like, that's really good. Again, you don't have kids yet, but you're going to understand this someday. Like what he said is it for him.
Mhm.
So we're going to bed, like cute little honeymooners in our little spa robes, brushing our teeth. And Laura looks at me. She goes, what that guy said to you, you wanted the universe to speak to you. That guy spoke to you. We hear all these terms in yoga. You hear dharma and karma and prana. He described you sukha. He wants to feel in control of his life. He's in his lane doing the thing he's meant to do, and he can do it with ease. So he can be with his kids. He can be with his family. She's like, that's what you should call your company, the Sukha company, the happiness company. And I bought that website from my cell phone for $14 in Bali. And that is why I'm so passionate about what we do, because, I am thinking a lot about, I know my life is going to change in 3 weeks. And time is going to be precious, and I'm going to be tired, and there's going to be a whole nother set of demands on me, and I'm going to love him like crazy. I'm going to be sleep deprived for a long time, And I'm thinking a lot about how do I take those precious moments I have and go, I've done the thing. I'm not a loser. I'm not down on myself. I'm not angry at myself, beating myself up, being my inner bully kind of thing. I'm going okay, you did the thing. Now you have the time to go, make dinner or whatever, or take him to school in the morning, whatever that thing is, Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. I'm back.
No, I love it, and how do we come up with those names and how, what
Mhm.
resonates, and I wanted to call my tagline becoming your own best friend because to me, you need to treat you like you would a best friend, and that's so important. But positive things don't sell, so you get silencing your inner bully instead,
Oh, you
because
marketers.
so that, "Hey, I have a pain there. I talk to myself like crap. So let me fix that,"
Yeah.
is
Yep.
more likely to sell. And so, yes, I
Totally with you.
love inspiration and I love, that you put it into your life and you let it lead you instead of just wandering. And when we have that focal point, we can get into flow a lot faster than if
This
you
is
don't know where you're going.
this is true. Can I share with you another story? This is another film Hollywood
Yeah.
story, but it relates to something you're talking about knowing yourself and not beating yourself up and going oh, I get the rhythms of my life, how I work. And it's around this concept of chronotype. For those who don't know that term, it's the concept there are times of day that you're more adept at doing certain kinds of things, right? I experienced this first back when I was in Hollywood. There's a famous writer, Ron Bass. He wrote My Best Friend's Wedding and Rain Man and all these movies, right? He writes characters that movie stars play, right? Because it's hard to get their attention. Like Julia Roberts, Tom Cruise, they have 20 offers every day. It is hard to get their attention. And he wrote at that level. He was famous for not talking to his family in the morning, not even good morning, hi, how are you to his wife. And he said to them this, I'm not going to be the dad who's hey, who wants pancakes? Who needs to ride to school? Did you do homework? He said, when I start talking to you, I can't hear my character's voices in my head anymore. So I need to use that time for he would get up at 4, sometimes 5 in the morning and write until 9. He said, I need to use that time to write these bits of dialogue. And as I mentioned, he did it at the level that you get someone like Julia Roberts to say, okay, my spring, I'm going to spend it saying these words. This guy's character is how I'm going to spend April, May, June, right?
Mhm.
And his family was cool with it because they're like, hey, dad, go make your $2 million a script, do your thing. And he was in the afternoon, totally good. I'll do studio meetings. I'll meet with other writers. He had a stable of writers he worked with and this whole thing. But he was famous for being very aware, self-aware of how he worked well. And he couldn't write dialogue later in the day. He didn't like doing studio meetings in the morning, and it was just, if you wanted to work with him, this is how you work. And I share that because it is not hard. It's free. You can do this with a piece of paper and a pencil. It is not hard to figure out your chronotype. You can take a piece of paper, draw a little grid on it, Monday through Friday, morning and afternoon. And for a week or two, just jot down roughly what you worked on and how you felt. Tuesday morning, wrote blog posts, a smiley face, felt good. Wednesday afternoon, did something else. Man, it didn't feel so good. And I'm going to tell you, you look at that after doing it for a week or two, you will see the patterns. You'll be like, I should be doing this at this day part. And it's just respecting yourself. It's just understanding we all have different rhythms. Like there's a famous hustle culture in Silicon Valley about like, we're all coding at 2 a.m. and it's, when you do the great work. Da, da, da. I bought into that for a while. Laura Jane, I'll be totally honest. Like there was a period of time when I was coding and I was like, well, of course, I have to wait for everyone to go to sleep. So I'm going to work from, midnight to 4 and then I'll sleep in until 10 and da, da. And you know what I realized? That code that I would write in those, doing it the way hours was not right for me. That was code I would usually end up rewriting, like having to refactor later. It was not great code. I am actually really good in the morning before breakfast. In between like going to the gym early when like Laura's asleep, everyone's asleep, until like 9 or 10 a.m., that is my golden time for creation. I will go write something. I will go, code something. And it is not everyone, not all of us have the opportunity to say, I'm just going to do this thing at this time because that's what I want to do it. Sometimes there are boundaries put on us, right? But if we're aware of how we work, it's the first step towards, okay, I can kind of optimize this and stop beating myself up around, why don't I write great dialogue at 10 p.m.? Ron Bass knew, and he fixed it for himself. He figured it out and he fixed it.
And that's so important, that self-reflection as you can identify, like, today this made me low energy. This made me high energy. And as you do that self-reflection, you get to know yourself and your timing and what works for you. And like, I know my mornings need to be relaxed. I am more productive if I get up and I'm going to pretend like it's coffee, but lately it's lemon water. I just slowly drink my drink and ease into the day. When my husband and I got married, I was a morning chatterbox where he'd go, shut up. I am not a morning person. And you'd just go, okay, but what this whole reason to even bring this up is when we know ourselves, we can communicate. And when we communicate, there's no mis-expectations. We hired a guy that in his interview said, I have to take a nap from 2 to 2:30. I will not take a meeting. I will not do anything. The expectation was set and followed. When you can share, when you know yourself enough that you can share it ahead of time, you bring yourself power.
So agree with you. It's like giving someone a user manual to you. Like, here's how to get the best out of me. Just follow this manual. But it comes from self-awareness, like you said.
I would tell in my last several interviews, it's like, hey, if I'm not having fun, I'm not going to stay. If it can't be fun, I don't want to waste I don't want to waste my time at a job that's miserable.
Yeah.
And you set that expectation. If you're goofing around and chatting with somebody, they know you're having fun. They know you're sticking around. So learn to share your limitations and your needs because then you have the power to keep them.
Can I pick up on something you said?
Yes.
Implicit in what you said, the idea of like, you're working with other people, like we're part of a community of people who work, right? We're not just little islands sending off emails into the void, right? This was something that I wrestled with. I'll tell you, I remember, maybe this is true for you, maybe not. I remember in college, I did go to study hall. There was something interesting about, okay, we got to buckle down, get ready for finals or whatever, right? And going to the library, it wasn't super social, but it was all kind of like we're in this together, studying, right? When I was an executive at Fox and at DreamWorks, I was not a writer, right? I'm not a great writer. There's a lot of stuff you have to read. Now, I was in West Hollywood, and there is a famous Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf that's right across Sunset Boulevard from the Directors Guild. And it's known as like a writer's clubhouse. And you go in there and, in the corner, there's like the old guy who's written 3 studio movies this year and he's making $1 million a script, but this is his habit from when he was 25 coming to this coffee shop. And then, at the little communal table next to you, there are 2 girls who've just gotten off the bus from Iowa and they're writing their first like TV pilot, hoping to be great, whatever, right? And it's not an incredibly social environment, but I would go there to read nights and weekends because there was something around that energy of being part of a community of people who are trying to do something, right? And they're all chatting, but they're like trying to write the next great movie or TV series. And I really love that. And I'll tell you, I was wrestling with that when we were creating my website. It's largely a single player kind of thing. You get into flow on your own, right? Hey, man, we'll give you great music. We'll give you a nice little assistant to keep you off your phone, but you do you. And I had this thought where I was like, man, something that really worked for me was that sense of other people. I'm part of a community. So I bounced this off in the chat. I was like, hey, who has a moment to chat with me and talk about like, how do you work? How do you find that energy? And I'll tell you, there was one woman I spoke to who sealed my thinking on this, where I was like going through this whole thing of like, oh, I don't know. Is it so distracting if there are other people and you have like a sense of a group of us all working together? Is a coffee shop good? Is a coffee shop bad? Should I be alone in my home? And this whole thing, right? And I was like really like angsting over it way too much. And she said this to me, and I was like, okay, you win. That makes a ton of sense. She said, listen, Steven, I can go to the Nike store. I can buy a pair of shoes. They will sell me a left shoe and a right shoe. I put them on my feet. I run. Works great. There's a reason why there are 100 million people in the Nike Run Club. Because together you run further, you run faster, you're accountable. The days when you suck and you're on the sofa and you don't want to go, and your friends come by and they're like, come on, let's do this. And you do it, it feels great. And the day that you're there for your friend who needs you to lift them up feels even better. She's like, you should do it. And I'll tell you, is the favorite part of my own website is just checking in with people and seeing what they're working on and sharing stuff. And like, oh, someone will post they finished their website and someone will be like, oh, show us the URL. Because you realize you're part of a fabric. Even if you're working remotely, even if you're in an office with people you don't connect with, there's a whole world of people who are trying to do something with their lives. And that I think is really energizing. It's not a productivity technique, but it's just something about being human.
Yeah. Yeah. And I call it like trying on shoes. For me, I might
Yeah.
want flip-flops all the time. I walk the most, I do the most in my flip-flops.
Mhm.
Somebody else might need their tennis shoes. Somebody else loves the feel of high heels.
Right, right.
It's life. You pick what works for you. If you're a morning person, do it then. If you're a late at night person, do it then. Pick the shoe that fits and wear
There you
it.
go. Good
There's no
advice. You heard it
shame.
here
There's
from your
no
resident
shame.
podiatrist, Laura Jane.
Well, it's just like we understand why people have different things, but we don't understand why we're different. We want to fit in the mold.
Yeah.
And guess what? You're not a mold. You are a unique individual here for a unique purpose, for a unique experience. So stop trying to be like everybody else. Go ahead, try on every shoe in the world. Pick the one that you like. And if you need a pair for church and a pair for work and a pair for
Mhm.
home, that's okay. You don't have to wear the same ones all the time. Enjoy life.
Good metaphor. I may use that at some point. That was really good.
Well, sometimes I use bra,
Okay, I'm
but
probably
I
not.
didn't
Yeah,
think you would understand
that
that
would be
one.
too weird for me to be like, I think it's like a bra, right?
We're all different.
Right. I'll stick with the shoes.
Good choice.
I know, I know. This has been super fun. I mean, thank you. I love chatting about this stuff. As you can tell, this is,
It's so important for us all to learn enough about ourselves that we can pick and
mhm.
we can choose. And that is when you live your best life. So, Stephen, I know you have a hard stop, you have yoga. So let's go ahead, wrap up. I know we have talked a lot, But how do we get a hold of you? What do you do? And why do I want to go to your website?
Well, as I mentioned, I think the thing that's probably interesting about me is I've worked as a senior executive in film and, run startups and raised tens of millions of dollars of venture capital. So I've seen both those worlds pretty well. I love sharing what I saw, you know? Um, Anyone who has a question about anything that I said, if they're like, who is that Hungarian guy or who's Cal Newport or whatever, you're welcome to email me. My email address is not a big secret. It's Steven, Steven, at thesuka, of course, my company, THESUKHA.co for company. Email me. I will email you back a link. Here's something to read. You want to learn about Cal Newport and deep work. Here's a great link. Here's a book to read, right? It will not be the story of my life. I don't have time to write it. You don't want to read it. But I do get back to all my emails. And if anyone wants to try, what we built, it's a simple website. It's free for 7 days. You can see if it helps you get into a flow state. And it's, of course, at thesuka, THESUKHA.co. And come drop in the group chat and say, hey, I heard you talk on Laura Jane's pod and I want to do something with my life. And I'll say that if I could say one thing to close, and it's not a super short thing, but it's probably more revealing than anything else that I've said. I run this company now for free. Like Tony and I that created it, we don't collect a salary. We do this because we think it's a good thing to do in a world that's very divided and very full of distractions and all this stuff, right? And this spring, there's a guy who, when you finished a task, you can share it to the group, right? There's a group chat and there's a little button when you finish something. If you want to say, oh, this is cool, I'm going to share it and inspire other people to do something, right? He shared a task and the task was finish my dissertation. Some people in the group chat were like, hey man, that seems like a pretty big, task for today. What's up? And he's like, I am a assistant vice principal at a high school in Missouri. His name is Roy King. He said, I have been working nights and weekends on my PhD in engineering. And I find I have 60 to 90 minutes at night between school stuff and family stuff because I want to be with my kids. And this, working here allows me to be really focused because the little bit of time I have. And I turned in my dissertation. He said, but don't get too excited because I still have to defend it. You have the PhD, you got to, right, exactly. Yep. So he's like, I have that. I think it was like, 2 weeks from Monday, whatever date he specified, right? Okay, cool. The weekend before that Monday, people around the world that I know, because I run the platform, they do not know him. People in Spain, Japan, wherever, they were like, hey, Roy, you got this. Good luck on Monday. We're pulling for you. It was like really like kind, sweet stuff. And on Monday, nothing. Heard nothing from Roy. And people then started posting like, hey, anybody speak to Roy? Does anybody know how it went? Is this a bad sign? Da-da-da. Tuesday morning, he logged in and he posted, you may now call me Dr. King.
That is so awesome.
People went nuts. That feeling is why I do what I do now.
That is music to my heart. Why we do something is because we see the joy in others. That's you and me.
Yep.
If I can help one person have a better day than they would have had, I fulfilled what I need to do. So this is going to be a tough one then, because we've had so many things we can do. So Steven, what is that one thing our friend can do right now to figure out how to get into that flow state?
Start each day with an intention and be very realistic. Like you're not going to get 10 things done tomorrow morning. But if you first thing in the morning think, what is the big thing that moves my life or my family's life, my team's life forward? Start your day knowing what that thing is.
Yeah, I use Insight Timer, and every morning it asks me to set my intention.
Yep.
And
that's awesome.
It's a nice reminder to say, today I intend to. And it gives you, when you write it down, it gives you that I'm now accountable. Just keep it in your head. You can pretend. Yeah, I didn't even say that. I got sidetracked.
How do you remember to open it every morning?
I let it send me notifications. It's on my phone. So
Gotcha. Okay. Right.
most of the apps I use, I don't allow to send me notifications,
Yep.
but I do on my Insight Timer. So
That's
it
cool.
is beautiful. My husband and I go to bed with Insight Timer meditations. I wake up in the morning with Insight meditations because to me, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, try the shoe on. Set
Right.
your intention this week. See how much more productive or how much more in the flow you get. I love it. Stephen, you're coming back as long as you're willing.
It was great to
This
be
has been
here.
beautiful. Thank you so much, friend. Stephen and I are not medical or mental licensed professionals. We are here for entertainment. People that traveled a rough road and want to shine the flashlight so that you can find your way to your destination. Thank you for joining and stay tuned for the next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss the next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.